Hello, friends and foes. Oh, what's this? My microphone's all grown up now. The $15 shitty Amazon Tiny Mic era is officially over. I'm sorry to anyone who will miss it. I'm trying to do a bit. Nowadays, it's easy to take for granted the convenience of wireless communications, but back in the late 90s and early 2000s, this was still new and exciting. We had mobile phones that could make calls from virtually anywhere, and the World Wide Web brought us instant messengers like AIM and MSN. Even the video game industry was starting to hop on board, with some consoles in the early 2000s granting gamers the ability to play with people all over the world by connecting to the internet. However, Nintendo was a little behind the curve in this respect. For instance, if you wanted to play a game together with someone on the Game Boy family of consoles, not only did you both need to have your own Game Boy system and a copy of the same game, you also needed to go out and buy a whole-ass separate accessory. Nintendo had taken a hit in recent years with lackluster sales of the GameCube, and they needed to move out of the Stone Ages if they wanted to remain at the forefront of the industry. In 2004, they debuted their new handheld console, the Nintendo DS. It featured a foldable design with dual screens, the bottom one being a touchscreen. It was a bit of an experiment for them, but it ended up paying off big time. By 2016, the DS and its subsequent versions, the DS Lite, DSi, and DSi XL, had sold over 150 million units, making it Nintendo's best-selling console to date, and the second best-selling console of all time behind the PlayStation 2. Initially meant to coexist alongside the Game Boy Advance, it instead ended up succeeding it and led to the creation of the 3DS in 2011, a more powerful DS that could display graphics in stereoscopic 3D. There are many reasons why the DS was as successful as it was, and I think one of them was its wireless connectivity capabilities. It allowed users to play with others over the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection service, which garnered over 2 million connections from over 1 million unique users in the first 4 months of its lifespan. This made it the first Nintendo console to implement online features successfully, after previous ventures like the 64DD's online service were unexpectedly shut down due to low usage. But this wasn't the only way in which DS owners could play with each other wirelessly. As I mentioned, the Game Boy supported local multiplayer through the use of the link cable, but the DS did away with the need for any cables or other peripherals. Players could now connect their DS with multiple other in-range systems at a time over Wi-Fi, without the need to connect to an existing wireless network. In addition to facilitating multiplayer games, this was how PictoChat, the console's touchscreen-based chat room software, functioned. But Nintendo went even a step further in their wireless connectivity features. Not only did you no longer need a link cable, you didn't even need both players to have a copy of the same game. But Randy, I hear you yelling at the screen, how is that possible? 3 words. DS, download, play. This was one of my favorite features of the DS, but I feel like it often gets overlooked. With Download Play compatible DS games, only 1 cartridge was required for up to 8 players to play together depending on the game. The player with the game would initiate wireless communications from the game menu, and the guest players would select the Download Play icon on their DS menu to begin downloading data from the host's game, and temporarily store it in their device's memory. Now, because the DS can only download and store so much data, it wasn't like the guest players could play a full version of the game or anything. It would usually be a version of the game with much more limited features, or a multiplayer exclusive minigame. The game doesn't remain on the guest systems permanently, with the data being erased once the system is shut off or the host cuts the connection. The feature was carried over to the 3DS, allowing users to play both 3DS and DS games over Download Play, and being backwards compatible with the older DS systems. The DS was one of my first consoles, and my siblings each had one as well. Like Nintendo, my parents were a bit slow to adopt new technology, so we still had dial-up internet well into the 2000s, meaning we couldn't connect to Nintendo WFC, but we sure could use DS Download Play, and we did so frequently. My parents were probably very glad they didn't have to buy 3 copies of every game we asked for. DS games were like 60 Canadian dollars, and still are for some reason.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
I have a lot of fond memories surrounding DS Download Play, so I hope you'll join me in looking back on some of my favorite Download Play compatible games. There were several DS Mario games that were compatible with DS Download Play. The one that I personally played the most was Mario Kart DS. Up to 8 players can race against each other in the standard versus mode, but only the Mushroom and Shell Cups can be played. Only the host player is able to select their character, while guest players have to play as different colors of Shy Guy. Mario Kart 7 for the 3DS expanded on this a little, with all courses being playable, but guests still had to play as Shy Guy. What I actually got more mileage, get it? Out of was the battle modes, particularly Balloon Battle. Players each start with 1 balloon. They can inflate more using the microphone or select button, holding up to 3 at a time from a total of 5. The objective is to pop other players' balloons using items or steal them by running into them while using a mushroom. Once a player loses all of their balloons, they are eliminated, and the last person standing wins. I remember once my family stayed over at a family friend's house for a few days, and my siblings and I had a lot of fun playing this game over download play for hours with their 3 kids. I can clearly picture all of us sitting on the floor in a circle and yelling and cheering as we played. The other battle mode game that I didn't play quite as much was Shine Runners. Players compete to collect the most shine sprites before the timer runs out. Once a shine is collected, another one spawns somewhere else on the map. Getting hit with an item causes you to lose a shine. Once time is up, the player with the least amount of shines is eliminated, and the game continues with progressively shorter time intervals until 1 person remains. 3 of the 6 battle stages were playable on download play: Nintendo DS, Tart Top, and Pipe Plaza, and guests still had to play as Shy Guy. The DS port of Super Mario 64 had a download play compatible multiplayer mode that was similar to Shine Runners. Everyone, including the host, plays as different colors of Yoshi and competes to collect the most stars before the time runs out, although there are Mario, Luigi, and Wario caps you can use to transform into those characters. There are 4 stages to choose from: Castle Grounds, Sunshine Isles, the Princess's Secret Slide, and Battle Fort. Being hit by a stage hazard or another player causes you to drop a star, giving other players an opportunity to steal it. It's a pretty simple game, but it can be fun for a little while. Honestly, my favorite part of Mario 64 DS was always the iconic minigames. I was so fucking good at Wanted, I could get scores into the triple digits. Sadly, the minigames aren't multiplayer in this game, but they are in New Super Mario Bros., which came out a couple of years later. I love that they even managed to turn Loves Me into a multiplayer game. The way I unironically used to play this to find out whether my crush liked me. New Super Mario Bros. Also had a Mario vs. Luigi mode that could be played through download play. Each player chooses a brother, and they move through a small course trying to be the first one to collect 5 stars. Dying causes you to lose a star, which can then be stolen by the other player. In Mario Party DS, all multiplayer modes can be played through DS Download Play, with surprisingly few restrictions. Guest players can choose from the full roster of characters, and all boards are playable in party mode. I had Mario Party growing up, and used Download Play a lot to play it with my siblings, but I don't have any footage of myself playing it for this section because I have no idea what happened to my cartridge. It's been missing for years. I am willing to accept that I may have been the one who misplaced it, but anyone else with younger siblings knows that we usually blame them for this kind of thing. Guys, if you're watching this, it's not too late to come clean. I promise I won't be mad. Another much beloved game in my household was the DS Kirby game that no one remembers, Justice for Squeak Squad. This game had 3 mini-games that could be played with up to 3 other players through download play. In Speedy Tea Time, the players compete against each other and Toro, one of the members of the Squeak Squad, to be the first to fill up their hunger gauge. Whoever taps the cake the fastest once it is revealed gets to eat it. Tapping too early or accidentally ingesting a bomb will cause you to have to sit the next round out. This is the one that I played the most. People talk about cartoon foods they wish they could eat, and for me that's the strawberry shortcakes in Kirby games. In Smash Ride, players compete against each other and Spinny to knock each other off the stage while riding on a Smash Star, using the touchscreen to slide into opponents and send them flying by charging up a smash attack. Knocking off an opponent awards you 1 point, and the person with the most points after the 60 seconds are up wins. In Treasure Shot, players compete against Doc to collect the most sweets from the treasure chests as they open by shooting orbs at them using the touchscreen. Hitting a bomb instead will cause you to be temporarily unable to shoot. The player with the most points after 30 seconds wins. The next Kirby game on the DS, Kirby Superstar Ultra, I never played, but my sister did, and it also had 3 multiplayer minigames. These were Kirby Card Swipe, a card matching game, Kirby on the Draw, which was similar to Treasure Shot but with targets instead of chests, and Snack Tracks. where you have to remove obstacles from your Kirby's conveyor belt so he can eat the most snacks. You could also play one of the main game modes, Spring Breeze, with 2 players through download play, but weirdly the guest player had to look at the host screen while controlling their character with their own DS, which sounds like it must have been really annoying. Continuing the pattern of talking about overlooked and underrated games in a popular franchise that I loved as a child, we have The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass. 2 players go head-to-head with one player controlling Link and the other controlling 3 phantoms, which, for those who haven't played this game or its sequel, are these big hulking guys who are invulnerable to most attacks and kill you in one hit. The player on Link's side controls him using the touchscreen, trying to return all the Force Gems to his base, while the player on the Phantom side tries to stop him by drawing a path for them to follow on the map. Both sides can collect power-ups that temporarily grant them special abilities, like being able to run faster. Link can hide from the Phantoms in safe zones, but if one of them catches him or the time runs out, the round ends, and the players switch sides. The best 2 out of 3 games wins, with each player having a chance to play both sides per game. I played this one a lot with my siblings. My strategy when playing as the Phantoms was usually to just have them pace back and forth around the base instead of trying to go after Link, which made it pretty easy to win. Honestly, I think our favorite part was spamming the reaction buttons on the results screen. We found that extremely funny for some reason. Phantom Hourglass's sequel, Spirit Tracks, had a similar multiplayer minigame that supported up to 4 players. Each player controls a different color of Link and tries to collect the most Force Gems while avoiding phantoms, stage hazards, and attacks from other players, all of which will cause them to drop their gems if hit. Dropped gems can be stolen by other players, and once again, power-ups are available. I haven't played this one personally, but it seems very chaotic, which I love. While the DS Pokemon games support local wireless so you can battle and trade with your friends, for obvious reasons this wouldn't really work with DS download play. However, the Gen 5 Pokemon games made use of download play in a slightly different way. It was used to allow players to transfer their Pokemon from the Gen 4 games up to the Gen 5 games via a feature called Poke Transfer. It differed slightly from the typical DS download play because 2 game cartridges were required in this case, but they were 2 different games rather than 2 of the same game. How this worked was you would go to the Poke Transfer lab on Route 15 in the Gen 5 game, then on another DS system with a Gen 4 game inserted, select DS Download Play from the home menu. This would download data from the Gen 5 game onto the DS with the Gen 4 game in order to facilitate the transfer. On the Download Play system, you can select the Pokemon you want to transfer from your box without having to boot up your Gen 4 game. However, instead of just transferring the Pokemon out after this point, it makes you play this goofy-ass minigame to capture them by shooting Pokeballs at them with a bow while they try to dodge them by hiding behind bushes. Only the Pokemon that are successfully caught before the timer runs out are transferred, although you can attempt the minigame as many times as you want. Game Freak really went through a phase where they thought transferring Pokemon needed extra unnecessary steps for some reason. Transferring from Gen 3 to Gen 4 was similarly annoying with the Pal Park and the catching show. Like, I already went through the trouble of catching these Pokemon once, why do I have to do it again? Whatever, at least we have Pokemon Home now, even if we do have to deal with this freak. My final DS Download Play example actually doesn't come from a specific game. Download Play was also used as a method of distributing game demos to DS owners in the mid to late 2000s. In 2006, Nintendo established the DS Download Station service in certain Nintendo DS retailers, such as Toys R Us. People could bring their consoles to these stations, in which a standard retail DS containing a DS Download Station cartridge with a demo was hidden inside a box, and connect to it using Download Play in order to receive the demo. As with regular Download Play, the demos only remained on the system until it was shut off. The stations could only send one demo at a time, but they could connect to up to 15 other systems simultaneously. Some of the demos distributed this way included Tetris, Brain Age, and Mario Kart DS. This demo distribution system later moved to the Wii, where players could download demos onto their DS through the Wii's Nintendo channel. In a world where companies are now releasing consoles that cost over 900 Canadian doll hairs, controller and disk drive sold separately, it's nice to reminisce on a time when gaming was a bit more accessible. You didn't need to own a copy of a game yourself in order to experience it, as long as you knew at least one person who did. It also helped bring people together physically. I feel like most multiplayer gaming experiences nowadays are done remotely through the internet. Some of my fondest childhood memories surrounding the DS are of playing DS Download Play with my siblings or friends. I think this is part of why the DS appealed to so many people, and how it ended up bringing in such a large audience of more casual gamers, thus contributing to its great success. The download play modes were simple, but still fun and engaging. It's also just a great marketing tactic for the games themselves, honestly. If you play Mario Kart on DS Download Play with your friend and really enjoy it, then you might go out and pick up a copy yourself so you can experience the full thing. Did you ever play DS Download Play? Do you have any childhood memories surrounding it? What were your favorite games to play? I would love to hear all about it down in the comments, or just leave another comment about how I'm staring into your soul or whatever. It helps the video either way. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, liking, subscribing, and sharing it with a friend or an enemy or a stranger would be very much appreciated. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Excuse me.